Great, it looks like we've got people coming in. Thank you everyone for joining us today. We've got a few more to come through. Excellent. Yep, okay, we might get started. We're on a 45-minute timeline today, so appreciate that you're giving up your lunch breaks to come and join us to learn more from Sean and Yasmin. So welcome to our Australian Circular Economy Hub webinar today called Exploring Australia's Circular Economy Ecosystem. Before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the land on which we meet today. Here in Sydney, we're on Gadigal land of the Eora Nation. And we also welcome those on the lands where you are all joining us from today. And we pay our respects to elders past, present and emerging. So my name is Dr. Nicole Garofano. I am the head of Circular Economy Development here at the Australian Circular Economy Hub, or the ACE Hub, from Planet Ark. And the mission of the ACE Hub is to facilitate the transition to a circular economy here in Australia. And we're doing that by providing a platform of sharing and of collaboration with those who are adopting circular economy and those who are looking to adopt the circular economy. So just a bit of housekeeping here before we get started. So this event is being recorded, so that's something that we need to be aware of. Will be shared on our website and various socials as well. We will open the floor to questions later on, but if you do have a question for Sean, Yasmin or myself, you can put it in the chat or you can raise your hand, use the raise your hand function on Zoom. We do ask that if you try and keep your questions fairly direct and to the point so that we can get through as many as possible in the time frame that we have today. Now, you can also select gallery view in the top right-hand corner of your screen so that you can see everyone. And you can also pin the main speakers by hovering over the top right of our faces and clicking on the three dots. So for those of you who are Zoom experts, no doubt you'll be aware of that. So that's basic housekeeping. We've done acknowledgement to country. So moving on to the title of our webinar today. So the title focuses on the circular economy ecosystem. So the term ecosystem was actually first coined in the 1930s to describe the interactions that exist between organisms. It's since been applied to business and commerce since about 1993. And central is this concept of the importance of networks, of cooperation and of collaboration. And so today in our webinar, we're going to explore the importance of networks as we move towards and adopt a circular economy. So transitioning the economy is going to require all of us to work together to build what is a thriving ecosystem. It potentially requires the largest collaboration effort that we've ever sort of considered. And it's great to see that in our list of participants today, we've got a great representation from many sectors. So from academia, from business, individuals, from government as well, and from community. So this is a really fantastic example of the networks that we're looking to build on as we transition to this circular economy. First off, we wanted to just offer you a poll, a quick poll. We wanted to understand where you as our participants are on your circular economy journey. So if you could indicate on the poll on your screen where you might find yourself, that would be really useful for us and our speakers. Okay. So, yeah, so we're looking at learning more, getting ready to get involved. And some of you have already built. Well, that's great. So we might have some really good feedback from our participants today. Most of you have voted. Got 86%. Great. So out of the 84%, 29% would still like to learn more, and a good bunch of you are really looking to get involved, which is awesome. We're really excited to see that and look forward to what comes of today as well. So here to help us understand how we break out of our out of our silos. If those of you that are moving forward, we sort of tend to work in silos quite often, and learn how to collaborate more and to maximize the innovation that we can find in the circular economy. We have two leaders of the Australia's emerging circular economy ecosystem. So joining us from Brisbane, many of you may already be familiar with Yasmin, but we have Yasmin Grigaliunas who's the CEO of the world's biggest garage sale. World's Biggest Garage Sale is a social enterprise that's activating the circular economy through the recovery of dormant goods. And they've recently launched their Australia's first circular economy precinct. And so the precinct has actually repaired, repurposed and rehomed millions of used products, used goods to date, and given individuals to really actively participate in the circular economy. So we look forward to hearing from Yasmin in a second. I'm just going to firstly introduce our second speaker today. And this is from Melbourne. We're welcoming Circular Economy Victoria's founding director, Trewick. Sean is a systems thinker who brings a really unique set of knowledge with government, industry and community. He's bringing change makers together to develop localised circular economy innovation hubs. One such example is the Victorian Circular Activator pilot project that launched just in April of this year. So to kick things off, we're going to have a little bit of a discussion and learn from Yasmin and Sean of their journeys that they've undertaken in getting along to the circular economy. And we're going to start with Yasmin. Yasmin, if you'd like to tell us, what is your journey and how you have come about to be such a critical part of the circular economy in Australia?
And it's still muted, yes?
Am I good now? I'm good now.
Good now.
Sorry, I needed to be unmuted. Thank you so much, Nicole. And it's such a pleasure to be here. I'm coming from Turrbal and Yugara country here in Brisbane, and what a pleasure. I remember bursting onto the scene as a startup founder 4+ years ago, pitching at a technology River City Labs precinct saying circular economy. And I remember people going, circular what? So it is an absolute pleasure to be here today. I can see there's so many people online, and what a movement. Like everybody here today. I think we could easily swipe me out and swipe up plenty of other people that I can see online today who are pioneers, and those of us that jumped over the cliff without a parachute and learned how to build it on the way down, all for circular economy many years ago when we saw such an early importance in this sector. And what I love about it is the collaboration. We call it co-opetition, not competition. And I feel that it's really this beautiful industry that's emerged that really does look at people, planet and purpose with all different flavors of business methodology and strategic objectives along the way. We did open Australia's first circular economy precinct back in April 2020. We certainly didn't plan to do it the week of COVID shutting us down. And we really have had to adapt and adopt future strategic opportunities along the way. But, you know, we're super proud to be part of the circular economy, part of the conversation, and part of the evolution of what circular economy is, not just here in Australia, but of course for the world. So thank you again for the opportunity to chat today. I'm looking forward to answering lots of questions and having lots of great conversations that will no doubt emerge into great actions from today.
Fantastic. Thanks, Yaz. It's really, really such a privilege for us to have you joining us today. So thank you. And Sean, what about you? How have you transitioned into this circular economy journey?
So really great to be here, calling you from Rwanda country. Like Yaz says, you know, I'm just a representative of many circular economy pioneers here in Victoria. And we feel very privileged to have this conversation and look forward to a very interactive session. My background is I'm an engineer, and that's how I got to circular economy. So as part of my work within industrial engineering, optimizing supply chains and looking at how we can design better business models for companies, I thought that, you know, the metrics in which I used to optimize, that objective function which I used to optimize a certain system, was always very narrow. And I'd been looking for years to find a more broader set of goals or a broader framework in which to optimize against. And I came across, industrial symbiosis and industrial ecology and biomimicry and all these amazing bodies of knowledge. But it wasn't just, it didn't capture me as much as circular economy did. So when circular economy came about, I went down that rabbit hole. And yeah, I've been absolutely obsessed for the last 3 years. And in early 2019, we kicked off Circular Economy Victoria, which we can talk about more. But yeah, excited to have this conversation.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you. Yeah, it really is. It just feels like there's so much energy, particularly in these last few years, that have just been really driving this awareness that we're at now. So I guess I just wanted to ask, maybe to start the discussion with some questions around why do you both think it's so important to build circular ecosystems or networks? What sort of, why is that so important to both of the approaches that you've taken?
Oh, look, I suppose for me, Nicole, it was having an on the ground view of the stuff, like really right on the ground. We had a world's biggest garage sale 8 years ago, thinking we were solving donor fatigue and the charitable sector challenges of everybody wanting money, but not enough money for everybody. And we really looked at stuff as a way to make money to fuel and drive a fundraising opportunity. And little did we know at the time that there was this whole untapped economy. And of course, the secondhand economy has been in existence for a very long time, hundreds of years. But there was this evolving economy around the work we were doing. We were talking to customers and hearing what they were saying, capturing that data and understanding from a design point of view with a customer intimacy approach that there was a hunger for something different. Consumption is required. We just need to consume more consciously. Stuff needs to be made. We need to make it more sustainably. And this take, make, dispose, most of us online today would be familiar with linear versus circular. And I think for those of us that have been doing it for so long, we've moved beyond that conversation to now an integration approach. And I feel like the momentum is there. The early adopters have jumped on board and now it's action oriented. How might we execute for circularity? And it's in the design of minimum viable products, testing locally and creating a collaborative ecosystem, dare I say it, and I don't want to overuse the word today, but I think that the community has spoken and we've listened, and those of us that were in there early have executed. And now we're starting to see this beautiful design framework coming around where what we call stability plus agility equals capability. And that's the situation we're in right now, where stability has come to the party. They know the terms, whereas agility's been doing it for so long.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily have all the capability, but together, when you unite those two important forces, we have circularity that allows us to design from the ground up without digging things out of the ground. So I'm super excited about all the possibilities that were once impossible.
Yes. Yeah. And that's about changing that language, isn't it, really? Going from that, taking the I am out of impossible and making it possible. Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Sean? How important have networks and ecosystems been to what you're doing there in your role?
Yeah, paramount importance. We started off solving a simple need, and that was for, professionals to talk about circular economy in a sort of free environment. And it was a meetup group that initially kicked off Circular Economy Victoria. And I remember the first few events we ran was, looking back now, all sort of cringeworthy in terms of me standing in front of a group talking about circular economy and me not knowing anything really about circular economy other than a few reports and my online MOOC that I did. But, it was the start of something much bigger, and, that then snowballed, and the demand for that knowledge was just so high that we scaled over 2 years to where we are now, where we're actively seeding these ecosystems around Victoria. And just to touch on that change of language, I love the word ecosystems so much, because it has that biomimicry kind of attachment, where we're looking at nature in terms of how diverse systems work together, in a highly symbiotic way. And I was talking to a leading thinker in the property sector here in Melbourne, and he was saying, and they're doing amazing stuff in terms of sort of enabling innovation precincts. And he was saying that, over the last 30, 40 years, we've seen sort of a subterranean ecosystem develop around sustainability and, all the good social and environmental kind of things. And now we're starting to see that subterranean forest sprout up above the ground with, more energy, more money, more, people coming in and sort of nurturing this forest that's emerging. So I thought that was great. And another reason I like ecosystem so much is, of course, it has system in it. And if we look at the extremely complex problems that we have to solve in the next 9 years, if we're going to meet SDG type timelines or Paris Climate Agreement timelines, we really got to think about systems transformation, and not just individual, kind of nodal transformation with companies or local governments, etc.
Yeah. Yeah, the systems thinking is really quite critical to this. Thinking about supply chains, for example, it even encourages organisations to just, think outside your existing supply chain and really explore what opportunities exist there as well. So I guess in both of your experiences, have you come across other examples? Of course, Yaz, yours is a fantastic example of CE, but have you come across other groups who are sort of exemplars of taking that action and actually going ahead and creating great examples of what others can learn from in sort of community settings?
Oh, absolutely. I think I remember meeting Sabrina Chakori from Brisbane Tool Library really early, and she kind of hit me up and said, can I come and talk to you about circular economy? And we were both real outliers at many years ago. And it was almost like we started our own little tribe. It's like, at least we understood what circular economy was. And she was talking about the tool library opportunities. And I remember, her and her team coming in and harvesting tools from us, and in our 2014 or 15 garage sale, long before we were even a company, back when we were still doing a once a year pop-up event. And I could just see this woman with knowledge, purpose, drive, and passion just, again, go about execution. And she executed so well. We love supporting Sabrina and her organization. And I think officially probably the first tool library maybe in Australia, certainly in our state here in Queensland. And her reputation is incredible. She's continued along the path of circular economy execution, and she just does it with heart and does it with community at the core, but also understands the critical need of changing the consumption model and changing the conversation around the way we utilize resources. So, I'd say a big shout out to Sabrina and her team, because they've been doing the doing for so long, and often you don't always have the opportunity to showcase such incredible work to an audience like we have here today.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think it's also really another really important element of that is that we also need to recognise that, the principles, the 3 principles of circular economy: design out waste and pollution, keep products and materials in use for longer, and regenerate natural systems. That there are really some great examples of elements of each of those. And if we look at the Ellen MacArthur butterfly, there are exemplars of where some of these activities can sit on that. Doesn't necessarily mean you do everything, but let's get in there and do what we can. So what about you, Sean? Have you got some examples of communities or small organizations that you've been working with that have really sort of gone about that action approach?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a tough question to really give, full credibility to all the different organizations, because you have people working on different levels, as you just said. But I would like to give a shout out to a few sort of, systems thinking organizations that have come up, especially within the Commons, because, obviously there's a lot of, consultancies that are doing incredible things leading the conversation around circular economy in Australia. But commons-based organizations, that's the sort of sector where we stand in. And I think, the Commons as a sort of third sector as opposed to, your public and private, it has an extremely important role to play in terms of being a conduit between the two and really, activating energy within sort of systems that there is no viable market to invest in, or it isn't yet structured enough to have a formal conversation with, say, government. So, New South Wales Circular obviously comes to mind first and foremost. They, pioneering the way to bring these stakeholders together in more structured ways to have conversations, and are doing a lot of bottom-up work. Of course, ASAP itself, you guys are amazing, but it's without saying.
Thank you.
Then I would like to point also to Loop Platform with Jody Brickhart, laying the foundation years ago around circular economy, and hosting those first conferences out of which a lot of kind of systemic leadership came out from the circular economy, whether those were environmental or renewable energy professionals or waste professionals, or just general industry, engaging with international best practice coming out of Europe, and that. I think those conferences really helped set the scene. And more locally now, I'll give a shout out to a group that we've just incorporated a couple of months ago called RICE, Regional Innovation for Circular Economy. Mm-hmm. And it's championed by a local pioneer, Philippa Bakes, and basically supported by a whole lot of local networks, including Circular Economy Victoria. And this is what we're really excited to see now, is because you're starting to see groups develop on a national level, like ASAP, like the Product Stewardship Center of Excellence, and numerous other, more specific or focused initiatives. And then you have state-based initiatives, and now you have local-based initiatives. So all of a sudden now you're starting to see this commons, this group of community groups or not-for-profits, sort of holding each other's hands and helping each other, enable the systemic transformation, but also, gives support in terms of that think global, act local narrative. I think I'll leave that at there.
So that's interesting. So if you had to identify, sort of key stakeholders in your journeys and collective work in transitioning to the circular economy, would you say, are there any specific stakeholder groups that you feel are sort of really quite critical in terms of moving forward?
Oh, I would say yes, absolutely. I think that if anyone stood here today and said that they can go it alone, then it certainly wouldn't be a circular economy entity. It's the sort of, I always feel like the circular economy isn't just about the stuff or the work that we're doing in each of the sectors, but it's also about the relationships. And in circular economy, you can't help but have this continuous loop, right, of crossing over and collaboration opportunities. And I remember our right at the start, before we were even a company, we were working with organizations that were passionate about sustainability at the time, not realizing the opportunity around the full circularity within their organizations. But we've had everybody and anybody from very small community groups and pioneers who are just passionate about it and wanted to learn, all the way up to big organizations and corporates like Officeworks and Wesfarmers at a national level. For us, I think that it's an essence of diversity at the core. We have had every opportunity and capability to work with local, state and federal government. And I feel like it's been a bit of synergy, dare I say it. You never want to put that out there when the governments are all so different in each of the local and federal national areas. But I've seen that it's almost bonded us. I mean, we have a waste minister in Australia. How awesome is that? And so for me, I think that there has been breadcrumbs along the way that we have been very conscious and cautious of enabling, like to bring together almost into our bowl. And we've created this incredible recipe in Australia to actually position as leaders in the world. And it's because of this, I think a little bit of the Australian culture. Like we just get in and get our hands dirty and we muck in. And I've seen big waste organizations, small little locals, and everyone in between just put their hand up. I remember, and I'll wrap up, but I remember being in the accelerator back when no one knew what circular economy was. And I spent so much time, when you grow a business, you spend so much time pitching your business. Well, we had to kind of pitch what circular economy was, and then additionally what a social enterprise that actually is a profit for purpose entity was. So we're not a charity, we're not a tech company. And it was almost like we had to spend all this extra energy. So to do it efficiently, I remember one of my mentors saying to me, you know, you keep talking about this circular economy thing, Yas. Like, you obviously know a lot about it, or you're really passionate about it. There's not one circular economy meetup group in the meetup space. So we created Circular Economy Futures probably 3 or so years ago. And a bit like Sean, like, I think all my friends and family came to the first one and there were like 20 people. But we've had hundreds of people, and every month we host the Circular Economy Futures. And that's a big shout out to anybody that ever wants to be a speaker there. And it was not about me telling people what circular economy was, because you could bang on all your life and you're just kind of preaching to people that either are switching off because they think you're some greenie, or they don't understand it and want to know how do you commercialize it. So to try and bring the ecosystem together, right at the start, we strategically positioned the meetup to be about education and to be a platform for other circular economy doers.
Yeah.
It was always the doers to be the speakers. So while we did a little, like, here we're having a meetup, here's the event, come on down, we did all the administration behind it and created the meetup group, which I think we've got like over 1,400 members now in Australia.
Wow.
And internationally. It provided a platform for other circular economy doers to tell their story. And it was always just about them having a platform to tell their story, so that we were all being educated along the way. And the people that have told their stories at our meetups, everybody from, you know, Spare Harvest, a small social enterprise circular economy company here on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, all the way through to local and state government. So it does demonstrate that we all kind of put our titles down and we just get in and are passionately wanting a viable and valuable outcome for the world.
I think Yas, we might ask you if we could share your offer there of connecting with your group. Maybe if you could share that in the chat, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I'll do that.
And I think that's really what it comes down to is, you know, everyone, there are many who are, you know, quite expert and have a tremendous amount of knowledge in the circular economy, but many others are still learning. And so I guess it's just about sharing the education, sharing the learnings, and being brave and you know, reaching out to those that are actually on the journey, because, you know, we all want the same thing, essentially. We all want to be able to see a time when we don't have to call it a circular economy, that it's actually the economy, because we're doing so well at circularizing. So, you know, that's sort of a long-term, you know, goal, I guess. But yeah, that's great. Okay, I'm gonna just pause that there. We've got some questions that have been submitted to the group before we started today, and then we've got some others, obviously, from the folks who are with us today. But one question is that was submitted. So we've got one participant who says, you know, they've got a great idea, but they're really unsure about how much know-how she needs to have before she can get out there and try and do something with circular economy. So this kind of lends to what you were saying there, Yas, that, you know, it's just get connected, it sounds like. Would you say that's probably the way to go?
Yeah, I remembered Sean, and I'll hand over to Sean in a second because I'm sure he's got some really great intel on this one. I mean, again, if you don't know, the only way to start is to go and put yourself out there and just like, so now when you search circular economy on LinkedIn, there's groups, and a big shout out to Chelsea. I know she does this great group, and people are just getting in there doing, and you don't need to have all the answers. I think the beauty about circular economy is there's perfection in the imperfection. And I feel really strongly, Sean and I have talked a number of times, and we're like, well, how do we work together? We don't know. I mean, the egos are so much at the door. Like none of us are actually here for self. I think that there's this beautiful connected essence inside that don't be shy. Reach out to the loud and proud and the quiet and under the hood team out there working in circular economy, because again, we all have so much to learn. None of us know the answers, and I think that we'll learn them through just connecting. So I would say just maybe suck it up a bit, reach out to somebody, make that phone call, send that email. The worst thing they can do is say no, but I can tell you right now, that in this ecosystem, you're very unlikely to get a no.
Yeah, and I think that one of the other points that this person was saying is that, you know, that we live often in fields where qualifications are really quite important, and, you know, are sort of the litmus test as to whether someone can actually engage. Have you had, what sort of reactions have you had with people getting started, Sean, in some of the work that you've been doing? Have qualifications been a barrier to moving forward, you know, with your activities?
I better watch out what I say here, because all my university colleagues would disagree. I think obviously, you know, in-depth knowledge is needed in certain parts to really dive deep into niche problems. But in terms of getting started, like, you know, just get started. What my board always tells me is if you're not embarrassed by what you do, you don't know that you're learning, you know. It's like, so just do it.
I love that.
Yeah, so but then again, you know, we need to be careful with building energy in the wrong places. So there is a balance between, you know, just doing something blindly and maybe taking a step back before and just have a systemic, you know, vision. So, you know, I would put something forward, like, if you're going to get started, make sure you read, like, you know, a basic understanding, you know, like paper or something on circular economy, or even something more broad, like go through the SDG websites and really understand the goals, or go through Kate Rayworth's Donor Economic Action Lab and see how people are implementing systems change throughout the world. And yeah, so back to the qualification thing, I don't think qualifications are, you know, a sort of, you know, prerequisite at all. Obviously, if you're going to go in depth in research, it will probably help you. But you know, if you're going to go and do stuff, I mean, this would start a whole new conversation around how education systems are changing to a more, you know, practical, you know, sort of setting. But yeah, learn by doing is my go. And
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on that previous, you know, narrative around the power of the individual. And if you've ever spoken to me in a conversation, you've probably heard me say compound impact at some point, because what we really need to empower here in Australia and in the world is, you know, basically giving, you know, someone a set of skill set and a different way to look at the world, a circular lens, if you will. So that they can then empower circular change within their spheres of influence. Because an individual is everyone. It's all of us. You know, it's a stay-at-home parent, it's an engineer, it's a, you know, council worker, it's, you know, it's everyone. And each of those individuals, no matter what, you know, sort of, you know, resources they have at their disposal, they can make a change, and they should make a change. So yeah.
Yeah. So it's just about, sort of, as you were saying, yeah, it's just, you know, get out there and start having those conversations and making connections.
I think that you can get caught up in, you know, and it's a common trait, particularly of women. You diminish yourself and think you don't have quite all the dot points that somebody is looking for. We have a lot of team members who come in quite vulnerable, and we're really passionate about, you know, opening up employment opportunities through circular economy in that perfection and imperfection, right? And we always say this, we created this little formula because people were having conversations about, like, oh, I didn't finish year 12. Oh, I didn't even go to year 10. Oh, I don't feel like I'm good enough. And I think that the slate is clean in this industry. And we created this little formula, and it's effort plus execution equals evolution. So it's not about what your grade is. It's not about, like, if you make the effort and you execute, it doesn't matter if you have one arm or if you're blind or if you're fully capable with 7 degrees. Effort and execution is how we evolve, and we don't need to be caught up in what you did or what you've done. It's what you're going to do. And I think that it's really important that as a cohort, as an ecosystem, that we really do focus on the diversity of the opportunity that we have to come together.
I actually have a question for Yaz that I was going to chat to you when we catch up again, but this is a perfect time.
Love it.
It's relating to this new project we're doing, the Victorian Circular Activator, which looks at, you know, activating innovations around circular economy. And I think it has so much synergies with what you've done with regards to the circular economy precinct, you know, essentially finding new ways to valorize, resources in a sort of highly collaborative manner. So I wonder if we can have just a general conversation around, this idea of activating innovation in a precinct setting.
Yeah, I remember traveling over we won the Lord Mayor's Business Award a couple of years ago for sustainability. And as part of that, I got a $5,000 grant to go anywhere in the world I wanted back when you could travel. And I chose to go to Eskilstuna, to the Retuna, what I call the Circular Economy Shopping Centre. And it really is. It's a shopping centre, basically like a conglomerate of op shops, I suppose. But the circular economy is not, and without any disrespect, op shops are vital to the circular economy. But there's a new way, right? There's evolution. And I know that if you got down to the practicalities of dollar for dollar, how do you make money with secondhand evolving economy? We've got to do things differently. And so I was really looking globally to someone that's done something that's even remotely like us, and how could I learn from them? And when I got over there, I could see the work that they were doing, but there was so much that we had already done that I felt we could have taken to them. And so there was this bi-directional exchange of information that could have meant 1 + 1 is 3. So for me, I think that we've never had this idea of, oh my gosh, we've got to own the world and become the next Amazon of circular economy, because I think there's a whole bunch of ecosystems that exist already in this country. Imagine if we efficiently came together to use the foundational design of what something like our organization has done and learned over the last 8 years, but then designed it specifically for each ecosystem that brings their own flavor and strength. Now, is it called World's Biggest Garage Sale? Absolutely not. We grew out of our brand name like so many years ago, but we've never been so caught up in, we have to create this new model and this new brand, because we knew, like circular economy, it would evolve. And I think that the magic sweet spot is the energy already out there in Australia. If we could harness that and design solutions that allowed connected collaboration in each of the different ecosystems that exist, everyone would bring their own flavor. And I guess I liken it to, back when I used to work at Silvio's, back before it was Domino's, and I remember the Kedron store would sell lots of jalapeno pizzas, yet the Ipswich store wouldn't. But that's okay, because people in Kedron obviously liked really spicy food compared to Ipswich, where they didn't. And so for me, it's about that change of ingredients based on the location. And I feel that there's a real essence and importance there around not just having a copy paste model, because I don't think that would work.
I think also one thing that and Kathy from Melbourne has asked a question around what's happening with shifting the circular economy mindset into engineering process design for manufacturing and process industries, for example. I mean, we do talk a lot about what happens in that, post-consumption space, but we know that, to really get some runs on the board is about, designing out waste and pollution. So what have you both had in that respect, in terms of having those conversations with that design element of the circular economy? Sean, what have you had?
I think, there's a lot of talk, and that's great, it builds energy, but when you start to cross over that line and start to put circular economy into practice, it becomes a lot harder. And this is why, a group of us, including 2 universities, the local council, ASUP itself, and smaller entities, came together to form this Victorian Circular Activator, was to try to find tangible ways to sort of embed new innovations in different parts of the supply chain and product development cycle. I think there's a few programs out there. I don't want to, put any one over the other, but there are a few educational programs for businesses being supplied by different consultancies that really help, companies go through a sort of design thinking process where they can look at their system, look at their strategy, and see how innovations best fit into their transition to a more sustainable, more circular economy. So that'll be first, go through that awareness education stage. And then, our motto is awareness education, then you start to collaborate. So within your own supply chain, start having these difficult conversations with your suppliers. And that conversation isn't just a phone call, it's an entire way to restructure your systems. It's an entire way to recode your your enterprise resource planning systems, and it's a massive overhaul. You've got to change procurement policies, for instance. That's a major barrier for local government process change. So that conversation within your collaboration ecosystem, which might just be your suppliers at first and your employees, that thing. And then secondly is that empowerment stage. So now it's like, right, we've identified our problems, we start to collaborate, we start to redesign our processes, but now how do we find the innovations that are going to create the solutions? We know we've got this waste stream, but we have no idea what to do with it. So how do we access that knowledge? And that's where universities are really important, because firstly, they're going to open up, do that initial R&D. CSRO, obviously, they report recently on curbside recyclable contents like glass, paper, cardboard, plastics, and what major opportunity there is, and also possible opportunity. So I think what Yaz was saying there about almost creating that sort of hub of activity where when people can come together and have a higher probability of sort of engaging, that's when you really start to see that empowerment level come into place, because people finally find those solutions, and then hopefully they become advocates for the circular economy.
And I definitely agree, Sean. And the conversation's really changing at big and small level. Like we are absolutely passionate about circular economy. And I remember 2 years ago when we first, were approached by Officeworks around the work we do with them around the resource recovery of products that might otherwise have, not been resource recovered. And product stewardship was really an early conversation that we had. Well, we're not just like we've never, and we both agreed, and I know Ryan from Officeworks is absolutely okay with me talking about it publicly, but right from the start, our begin with the end in mind was, we don't want people to feel that we're just a dumping ground for resources so that you've got somewhere convenient to leave them so you can make more resources. That's never been the essence of and drive or strategic objective of Officeworks. We've had this design-led evolution of, product with them throughout the last 2 years. And obviously it just recently won the Banksia Award for Sustainability, the Minister's Award for the Environment, which we're incredibly proud of. But more importantly, excited about for the future opportunities. But they're not just wanting to find a solution for the mismatched, what we call surprise chain stuff. We're looking to actually, and they are too, improve design of future products because of the information that we are able to extrapolate from our surprise chain management. I mean, how amazing is that? And it's right from the start been an objective. So, anything is possible if you believe it so. And had you asked me 2 years ago whether or not we would be talking to Officeworks about how resources they're currently surprise chain to us, that we may one day supply chain back to them, of course. I mean, it's why we wanted to work with them in the first place. We really had, and they know, we really did not know where this partnership would go. But we didn't let the not knowing stop us. And we always had this intention that there was so much that could be done around the design. And a shout out to Donna, she's not online, from my team, manufacturing engineer, has been going and banging on about circular and the way to change design and manufacturing for 20 years. She left the industry because she got sick of no action, and we collided right at the right time. And she's effectively been like a co-founder with us for the last few years. And we have been able to see significant design elements change, not just at procurement, but now at supply chain, not just here in Australia, but internationally as well. It's just so exciting. And there's lots of business opportunities there. There's probably a bunch of people here online today who are the future entrepreneurs of businesses that will erupt, and not disrupt, but erupt this ecosystem.
Yeah, fantastic. We're actually just out of time, unfortunately. Great discussion. Thank you both to Sean and Yaz. We do have some other questions online which we'll look to answer for you and reply post the webinar today.
Nicole,
we know that, go ahead, Sean.
I just need to make one shout out. It's for everyone on the call. If you're not part of the Circular Economy Australia Slack group, I would highly advise doing that. I think at the moment, in terms of a nationwide conversation, That's as close as we can get. And then again, as mentioned before, Charles and Clean's Circular Economy Pioneers LinkedIn group.
Yeah, and also to subscribe to the ACE Hub. So we are looking to bring the various outlets of information into the one central point, and connect you with those who are doing and those who have the knowledge. So please subscribe if you're not already. I just wanted to say a quick shout out as well to all the behind the scenes team who have brought this together. Maddie, Lucy, Liam, everyone, even Katrina today. Thanks so much for all of your help. So please connect with us at the ACE Hub. We'll find out about new events, upcoming events, not just for the ACE Hub, but broadly in the circular economy ecosystem in Australia. You will find the recording of this webinar on our website, as well as many other resources, great case studies. And finally, when we finish, you'll see a link in the chat for our attendee survey. We'd really love you to fill that in for us so we can learn and see what we want to do, where we send our attention next time. So thank you too, just before I go, to our funding partner, the Australian Government, also to Bingo Industries, and to Keep Cup and Planet Ark Power, and our technical supporters and collaboration partners as well. And of course, we couldn't have had today without you all joining us and participating and being so keen and interested to get right into the circular economy. So we look forward to taking that journey with you. And until next time, take good care, everyone.